Wake me up after the race is over. Is the race already over? Oh, hey guys. Sorry for that. And welcome back to my channel where we talk about race recaps and other moto stuff. And today is not going to be a different thing because today we are going to talk about the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix held at Yas Marina. So by what you saw right now, you already understood that this was not an exciting race, but I'll try to do my best and fill the moment with all the details that I can find about this race weekend, as this is the final race weekend of this calendar year and it has been a topsy-turvy year with a lot of setbacks from the moment we had a failed start at Melbourne all the way to starting the season in July and having so many races that we are just shy of a normal calendar year with such a short notice of planning, organizing, taking permissions from all the governments and giving us this sport as a whole in these trying times. So first off, I'd like to just say thank you to all the parties involved, that is the FIA, the FOM, all the countries involved and all the protocols that they created and all the biospheres and the bubble system and the constant testing of all of the personnel who are included, and just an amazing effort from all of the marshals as well who came up, and all of the staff who at the back end who used to take care of everybody, all the hotel people and everybody. I just want to say a heartfelt thank you to all of you that you helped bring this sport to us and help bring us some joy to this year. Let's not get too emotional and let's get into the video, because this is the final race of 2020 and the next season starts in March. So we have 3 months of a gap in between us and I don't know how I'm gonna fill it up. Probably watching through the old races from the old archives, but yeah, that's me going on a tangent, so let's get started. So the biggest news this weekend that we had is Lewis Hamilton got his COVID negative report and was allowed back into F1 racing, and this was a big blow to George Russell because he thought that he could improve after having a week in the car and doing more and more to show his talents as an F1 driver and also to show Toto that he deserves a Mercedes seat, but that didn't happen and it was heartbreaking for Russell, but he put on a brave face on Instagram and everything else. I commend him for that. Coming on to this race weekend, practice sessions went normally with Pirelli adding their testing tires for next year as well. In qualifying, P1 normal, Alphas out. P2 was a bit weird because we lost both Renaults in P2, but I think it worked out good for them because they could start on any option tire that they wanted. And the final kicker in P3 was the top 3. Obviously it was going to be Bottas, Lewis and Max Verstappen, but in what order? That is the mystery that we've always had. And with Verstappen on top, Valtteri in P2 and Lewis in P3. So this was the first non-Mercedes powered pole position taker throughout this year. So that must mean a lot to Max Verstappen to start off the race weekend at a high and expecting to be in the lead for the race as well on Sunday. So let's get on to the race. So it was expected to be a one-stop strategy for everybody, and also that this is just a 55 lap race, but compared to the previous weekend the laps are quite a lot longer, so it evened out to have the same race duration as well. And the lights went out and nothing happened. No turn 1 incident, no turn 2 incident, no lap 1 incident at all, which was just a weird feeling to not have that at each and every race this year, and that started the domino effect. So there were pretty few overtakes this race weekend, and I just wrote just one sheet of paper on both sides for this race weekend, so I'll just tell you through the overtakes that happened. Lap 2, Gasly took Ocon for P9 without DRS. Lap 6, Albon takes Norris for P4. Lap 7, Ricciardo takes Ocon, team orders, they switched places. Lap 8, Stroll takes Kvyat for P7. Lap 8, Perez goes to P14 all the way from P18 from where he started. Lap 9, Gasly takes Kvyat for P8. And then the first heartbreak of this weekend hitting our boy Checo Perez again, and on lap 10 he just goes off the side of the road and stops the car. This was just heartbreaking because 2 races earlier as well, with 3 laps to go, he lost his engine and he had to retire from P3, and this time as well he was probably going to put a recovery drive and get some points for Racing Point, but that did not happen, and this was a transmission failure for Perez, and this brought out the virtual safety car on lap 10, which brought out the cascade of pit stops that 70% of the grid took. And this was a fairly early pit stop range for all the medium runners, because the soft runners would have been pitting around lap 8 to lap 18, and the medium range would have pitted from lap 20 to lap 28. So pitting on lap 10 from the mediums onto the hards, solidifying their one stop strategy. And then the marshals were having difficulty in pulling out the car from the side of the road and into the passageway that they have, because the transmission failed, so it was not engaging neutral, so the rear tires were not being able to be moved freely, so they had to bring out the full safety car and a crane to remove that car from the track, which added 3 more laps of yellow flag and the safety car. So in the midst of all this, Max Verstappen was P1. He started out nicely, he didn't let anybody overtake him, and he stayed P1 all throughout this process, and it was looking quite well for Max Verstappen, because the Mercedes were having a bit of a reliability thing where they had to power down the engines just to make it to the end of the race. And this was something I wasn't expecting, and the thing I was expecting was Mercedes cranking the engine all the way to 13, because this is the final race and they don't have to save it for another race beyond this, and just show the true pace and the true power of that engine that we saw in quali modes in the beginning of this season. So that was a bit of a bummer, but I understand why that happened and why they wanted to at least complete the race rather than DNFing. So safety car ends at lap 13, and we have a few overtakes after the safety car finished, and Max Verstappen again had a great restart. And this is where we saw a bit more weakness from Valtteri, because he was dropping a lot of time between him and Max. And the thing was, by the end of the race, the distance between Max and Valtteri was so huge, and the gap between Valtteri and Lewis was so small that I kind of think that Lewis was trying to manage his tires as well, but still kept pace with Valtteri. But Valtteri was the bottleneck here, and he has been for a few races now and is starting to show signs of weakness compared to Lewis, and starting to show that Russell could probably be more of a competition to Lewis. And we don't know what that outcome might come of this, because there have been rumors that Russell and Bottas will be swapped places, because both of them have contracts, mind you. But if Toto can have a deal with Mercedes that they give Valtteri and they get Russell, Williams would obviously accept, because they're getting an experienced driver who can help them develop the car a lot more in the future, and Mercedes would have a fresh face and a fresh competition to Lewis who could push. And from what we have seen in the previous race at Sakir Grand Prix, Russell really does have the talent, and him showing that sort of talent with just 3 days in the car, we can expect a lot more from him if he has the know-how and the customization to the crew, and also understanding the car more and pressing the proper buttons at times, which was a weird thing that he had last week. So this is just me speculating of what might happen, and I'm going to make another video about all the driver standings that are there currently at the end of this year, and who are going and who are staying. And this race was also another emotional event in that case as well, because a lot of the drivers were driving for the final time for their teams, and a few drivers were leaving the sport as well, which is always painful, because there is obviously a lot of talent in these drivers, and they are at the pinnacle of the sport. Yeah, to bring in new faces, some old faces have to go, unless they're Kimi Raikkonen. He can stay forever. He's 40, you know. That's me digressing, and let's get back to the race at lap 13. So let me talk you through the overtakes here. So at lap 14, Sainz takes Leclerc for P8 without DRS. Lap 16, Stroll takes Leclerc for P9. Lap 17, Sainz takes Vettel for P7. Lap 19, Stroll takes Leclerc for P9. Lap 20, Gasly takes Leclerc for P10. Okay, let me talk about the Ferraris over here. Okay, so at lap 10, with the virtual safety car, all of the teams except Ricciardo and the 2 Ferraris, and I think one of the Alfa Romeos, did not pit. In terms of Ricciardo, I'll talk about what happened to him, but the Ferraris, I think they made a mistake of not pitting them at the virtual safety car, because they kept dropping back and back and back, and even after they pit, they fell even farther behind than they were at lap 10. So I think this was a mix-up in strategy from Ferrari, and hope they improve that for next year, but I digress. And on lap 22, Ocon takes Leclerc for P11. Lap 22, finally Leclerc pits. Then lap 30, Gasly takes Stroll for P9. Lap 32, Gasly takes Vettel for P8, and Seb pits at lap 36. So now the only person who hasn't pit here is Daniel Ricciardo, who has been running on the hards from the beginning of this race. So all the way till lap 37 as well, he was still on the hards that he started on, and finally he pits on lap 40 for the medium set set, and he stays in the top 10 and retains a bit of the pace. And them swapping him with Ocon in the beginning stage of the race actually worked out because they were on different strategies, so it worked out for Ricardo, and in the end he came out, I think, P7. Then the only other highlight was on lap 47, where I think Leclerc got his black and white flag shown for him for track limits. So if you're looking at the overtakes that I spoke about, there weren't that many. So all the way from the lap 20 or so all the way till the lap 55 or so, it was nothing. Everybody was forced into a strategy of tire management and not wasting 20 seconds into another pit stop. So everybody was coasting and lifting, and everybody was just maintaining their tires. Nobody going for ballsy overtakes, nobody going for pushing all the way to the back of somebody's gearbox and staying there within the 1 second mark and trying to overtake and trying to push. So it was kind of a boring race, but Abu Dhabi is a bit of a difficult track to overtake with the two back straights. In the first back straight you will overtake somebody, but then after the two kings they will get DRS on you and they can overtake you back. So the only things that other than that happened were on the final lap. So all this, by this time Max Verstappen was in front for the whole race. Even during the pit stop he was in the front and he had the fastest lap as well, so he was on his way to getting a grand slam. So it was this close, and it was only snatched away by Daniel Ricciardo, who got the fastest lap on the final lap. So it would have been a bit of a great moment because he would be a record holder for being the youngest guy to have a grand slam in Formula 1, but alas, it wasn't in his cards. So let's not get too overwhelmed by that. And Ocon gets Stroll for P9 on the final lap, and Stroll was also struggling a bit this weekend, and I was expecting something of a big finale finish at the checkered flag in the end, like we had last year, and the fireworks, everything happened, and yeah, it was fun and everything, but the donuts were a bit missing because Max Verstappen didn't do donuts on the start finish straight. Kevin Magnussen did a few donuts, but it was somewhere on the off the track, but only on the start finishes with Lewis and Valtteri Bottas who did their donuts, and it was beautiful, and it was a lot of smoke, and in the end they started out and they stopped pointing to each other, looking at each other, just like challenging each other, and that was a beautiful moment. And if I find that image in a high enough resolution, I will have that as my personal wallpaper. I can guarantee that. So this was the end of this 2020 season, and we've already known that Mercedes has already won the Drivers' Championship as well as the Constructors' Championship, with Lewis having a huge margin against Valtteri of more than 100 points, I think, and Mercedes just walked away with the championship like 4 races to the finale. So it was a mix-up of not a lot, I guess, and with the 2021 regulations having just been a slight cut down in the aero department, I don't think it's going to be that much of a stretch to say that Mercedes might be dominant over there as well, because their engine and the whole package of theirs is working nicely. And Racing Point also have a good chance next year, because obviously they'll be the 2020 Mercedes that is right now, because they're bringing out a lot of the parts from here, and it will bring out another protest next year, but let's see what happens over there. And the other news here is Renault is rebranding themselves to Alpine, Force India, or Racing Point, or whatever you want to call it, or Jordan, if you remember it from back in the day, is changing itself to Aston Martin. They changed with McLaren as well, getting the Mercedes engine for next year, which they have asked for specific permission to not use their development tokens to change their chassis so that they can make the new powertrain to their drivers monocoque. And I can't wait for next year, because we have a bit of a larger tentative time scale for next year with 23 races, with the larger imminent change of aero in 2022 is going to be a lot more exciting, and 2021 is just an evolution rather than a revolution. So don't expect a smaller team to just skyrocket to the top. I can't wait for the 2021 season. Even though it is in March, I have a catalog of videos that I have already wanted to make, and I have planned a few videos regarding F1 as well that I will make, and hope you get subscribed to my channel to watch all of those videos. And I think that's it for this weekend, and it was kind of a boring thing, but I'm digressing again. So if you like this video, give this video a like, comment down below if I missed anything in this video, and follow me on my social media channels to see all of the statuses that I put up and all of the memes and everything that I relate to and I enjoyed looking at. Stay home, stay safe. I'm gonna see you guys in the next one. Peace.